Welcome into Soccer Mom Sunday. Jen Siess here, recording on I think it's a Saturday. I'm not really sure. My days run together when it comes to soccer anymore. Recording on a Saturday on location, believe it or not. The location I'm at is Missouri Baptist University at Spartan Field. I'm double dipping today. So I'm taking advantage of the fact that one of my kids is playing here today, and it's not that far from my house. And I was able to get somebody to agree to come meet me here. So recording on an actual, 10 feet really from an actual soccer pitch. And you might hear a little wind in the background or balls getting kicked as the girls are going to warm up their gamers in about an hour. So I'm here solo actually today in terms of guesting. Normally you hear JB Anderson with me. No, he hasn't permanently left Soccer Mom Sunday. He's just so busy. When it comes to schedules, I think, I don't know who's busier. JB with his kids playing for different teams, and one's in St. Louis City Academy. They were just in Florida for 10 days. And myself, between working for St. Louis City SC on their broadcasts and then also trying to keep up with my kids, JB and I were just finding it really difficult to try to find reasonable times to meet with guests for Soccer Mom Sunday. So he loaded me up with my own equipment, and I'm sitting here at Missouri Baptist University in an end zone behind a net here so we don't get hit by soccer balls. And the luxurious setup I have for my guest today is a trash can flipped over with, I don't know, some kind of rubber tile, I guess they use here. I don't really know what these are for, but it's making a makeshift tabletop right now. And we're recording. So thanks to Annie Wayland for coming in super non-luxurious conditions. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
But, we both feel at home, I think, near a soccer pitch at some point in time, right?
Absolutely. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, for sure. And when I got up this morning for the weather, I was like, oh, man, I picked a bad day. But it's actually not horrible. When the sun goes behind the clouds, it's a little cooler. And then when it comes out, I'm a little warm because the sun is. But I think otherwise it's a great day for soccer, don't you think?
Yes, it's beautiful weather for soccer, for sure.
Well, I will tell you, I wanted to have you on specifically because first, shout out to Dave Ehrenberg, Ladue high school soccer coach, who's like, I want to put a bug in your ear. I'm like, please do, because referrals are the best ways to book guests. It's just so much easier with a warm intro. And then it took me a bit. I think I stalked you a little bit on Facebook, and just to be like, oh God, we're already connected. Oh, we already met. We were at an event together that you held, which we'll get to that. All right. But and then of course we're linked through various soccer players. So we'll get to all that. But what I wanted to first do was just talk about Annie Wayland, the young Annie who got started in the game. Where did it start for you? Yes, you have to drop club names. You have to drop, CYC names, okay. Who'd you, North and South, and all that fun stuff.
Okay. Geez, it started quite a long time ago. Dating myself back, so probably around 4.
Oh, I bet you I could date back further.
Probably maybe a few years, just a couple though. About 4 years old, I think, is actually when I started. But back in the day, as we use that quote, there were no real opportunities for especially girls to play soccer at that time. And kids were kind of starting a little bit later. So the only opportunities were boys' teams. So I started with the boys' team, mostly because I saw my older brothers that were playing, and I just wanted to be like them and do whatever they were doing. And that's kind of what made me first find interest in it. And I don't remember much about the early days, but I do remember that when I first kind of forced myself onto that team, please take me. They're like, let's put the girl in the back. You know what I'm saying? Where she's least of a
she
problem.
She won't hurt us back
there.
Right,
right. Nobody will notice. And there was just a couple times where I eventually would get the ball and I'd just dribble to the front. You know what I'm saying? And
they're like, oh.
Yeah.
Hold on.
And then after I scored my first goal, they're like, well, maybe we got this girl in the wrong spot. And actually from there on out is where I started playing more offensive positions. It just took the one moment for somebody to realize she probably shouldn't be tucked back there.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
So wait, what part of town did you grow up in?
St. Peter's.
St. Peter's. So, okay, it's so funny when I think of St. Peter's, I went to Lindenwood. You went to Lindenwood. I think we went at different points in time, obviously, but Lindenwood from Fenton, that's where I grew up, was so far, right? And then St. Peter's was even further. So I didn't really know a lot of people, of course, at the time who grew up in St. Peter's. So what were your clubs or the teams you first started with?
So my very first club team was Wolfpack.
Wolfpack.
I know. I'm dating myself a little
We
bit
gotta
there.
bring that name back, don't you think?
It
like,
was
just
a
sounds
great
like,
name. You had like this little
Wolfpack.
roar thing that you would do, you know, and the team cheers, and it was just fun. And that's actually where I had my favorite coach, which was my dad.
Aww.
And so that was like the first opportunity that we kind of got to compete at a competitive level. He also coached on my CYC team at St. Elizabeth St. Robert, which is now
There you
Seton
go.
Catholic.
Right.
And so he was present in those early years for me more than anything. And I think like that's probably my favorite part about youth soccer is looking back and getting to spend those like extra time with him and him getting to kind of coach me on the field and him continuing to learn the game and bring really cool drills and just all the things that like a daughter gets to have with his dad. We got to share on the field and off the field. And I think that's such a unique experience. And I love that very much.
And I'll admit, it's not always. It's hard. It's a challenge. I was coached by my dad as well for softball. He was not a soccer guy, so he never coached soccer. But I have also then coached my kids. That can be a hard relationship to navigate. I often, guilty when I say I held my own kids to probably a higher standard. If there was some kind of behavior to call out, it's much easier. You're not thinking of it in the moment, but it's easier to call on my kid and be like, knock that off, even though 10 other people are doing it.
Yes.
Depending on sometimes how well or not well a game went, and I'm ruminating over it on the car drive, that kid accidentally becomes a part of that, and you're not thinking like, whoa, hold on a second, I'm jumping out of this coach player role and into this parent kid role, and we're kind of blurring those lines. So it can be a difficult thing too. How did your dad and you manage that? It sounds like so well.
It was really well. I think he held me to higher expectations as well, and I think that was beneficial for me as a player. I didn't get any, preferential treatment. I was expected to do everything that everyone else was expected to do. If I stepped out of line, it was, I'm saying the same sort of, possible consequence, but that really didn't happen because he was not that style of coach anyway. But again, still making sure that we upheld expectations and then we're setting the tone for what is or is not acceptable behavior. And I think that he just was such an instrumental part of my youth soccer that I think that was just so important to me to have somebody that was like also like I knew my support so close to me in the game at all times.
Yeah.
And was able to push me in my early years and kind of also let me know, hey, like you could be really good at this, and I think that was such an important thing that he instilled that confidence in me. And then there was a point where we realized that there was another step that I needed to take, and that was to switch over to a different club. And I think that at that time, probably for me around age 10 is when I switched to JB Marine.
So interesting. Two things because you said I don't want to miss those things is you mentioned your dad learning the game along the way. So not a soccer player.
No.
So kudos to shout out by the way to all the parents. I know we have there can be issues when parents coach their own kids. I get it. But many times you would not have teams. You wouldn't have had CYC teams. You wouldn't have many club teams without volunteer parent coaches and. For all the drawbacks that can happen for that, a lot of soccer gets to happen because parents step up and go, I'll do it.
I mean, and absolutely. And man, did he do it thoroughly. He did research. He watched the game.
Good for him.
I mean, he read books. He did all the things that like you would want any coach to do. And I think that's probably why he was so good at it. Because like I said, he wanted to be good at it. And he wanted to be good for not only me, but for all the girls that he was leading. And I think that we were really, really lucky to have him.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that, there came a point when it was like, I need to change. What brought that about?
I think he felt like he gave me everything that he knew. And in that moment, he's like, I have taught you everything that I know not to teach you. And I think that it is time for you to have a different instructor at this time. Like, let's go a different direction and teach you new things that maybe he didn't necessarily feel like he was equipped to teach me at that time.
Wow. It's hard. That's a hard. I remember my own. In fact, we're sitting here right now, and if anybody's hearing some balls being kicked in the background, the teams are coming. It's the Lufuse. Well, they're not just 2008. It's a composite team. So the girls in Missouri right now are in high school. Marin had chosen to stay and play this year. I'm crossing my fingers on high school next year, but play with her composite team. And they're setting up here to play what is probably a composite of Sporting Blue Valley who've come into town. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm remembering coaching her. I'm remembering coaching her CYC and then coaching her in club, and also knowing, like, there was some offhand comments that, my parents would make to be like, when they're 18 or, you're going to do, and I'm thinking, I don't want to do this when she's 18. Like, I played at a pretty good high level, but I don't really want to go get another license. I don't want to spend the money. I don't want to spend the time. And it's a lot of work to coach. And if I can't, at the level she wanted to play with, if I can't give her that level, then I shouldn't be the one doing it. So I'm feeling like I know exactly how he probably felt in that moment. Mm-hmm. Was that sad for you, though?
It was. It was sad, but it also was a nice opportunity that he just got to be my dad, too. And he got to just enjoy watching me play. And I think that was something, like, he's always been proud of me, no matter who I played for at any given time. And I think him and my mom have just been instrumental in my entire soccer career, which I'll talk about them more a little bit later on, and how important I think that their role was in my career. But I think that just that opportunity of just kind of enjoying the game and watching their kid, and there's no other strings attached to it.
Yeah.
We get to walk away at the end, and we don't have to carry the burden of, all right, how do we prepare for the next game, and all the different things.
And you guys managed to keep that separate. I mean, there are a lot of kids. My dad did it with me, even though he wasn't a soccer guy, and I have occasionally been good about, like, just being like, where do you want to go eat? And occasionally, maybe perhaps analyze the game a little bit too much with the kid who's like, really stop.
Oh, no, we debrief. We always debriefed. You know what I'm saying? There was a cutoff time, but there was a debriefing of how things went. Oftentimes he would film, and we'd even be able to go back and watch the film. Yeah.
Okay.
So when he was in the dad role, he would be filming some of the games, so I got to go back and actually watch areas of, like, oh, this worked or this was not working.
You were doing video review. I didn't touch that till college.
You should see the little DVD things that these things come on. These kids would never be able to identify that that's actually what we were recording on at that time.
I remember the big VCR tapes.
I still have a bunch of VHS tapes at my house.
What are we going to do with those?
I don't know, but I can't get rid of them.
There are digital services, I think, that do that. I'm just like, oh. And then I'm like, do I really want to go back and see what my hair looked like in the 80s? Probably no.
No, that's a hard no. that's absolutely not.
So you get to JB Marine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, so I'm thinking of, just playing either for, I think it was, 1 year of a Mastercraft, but then we went Kolping. So it was Kolping for a few years, and then went somehow, I don't remember which order, I think Pepsi, and then Coca-Cola. Played for the sodas. I never played for the beer. And I always played against JB Marine. I don't know why my dad never took me for a trial, other than it was potentially wanting to have something that practiced closer. Mm-hmm. Like, we typically practiced with the teams. We were always at Booter Park.
Yep.
Driving past that airfield where you can't step on the field because some pretend plane is going to kill you. So we would practice there. So I think it was more locale, but I do remember playing against JV Marine teams, which I don't think it mattered what age group you were in. It was always a hard game.
Yeah.
So drop names. Who were you with?
Well, I think I know. I first started with Herb Forster, and so he was my beginning coach when I first joined JB Marine. And then as the years kind of went on, it was Tim and Jen Bowl. We're also kind of co-coaching with Micah Vane or Vader.
Yeah.
And then for most of my career, it was with Vader, all the way up until college. And so it was quite some time that I got to spend underneath his leadership.
So So would you have been too young for that U19 team? I think it was a U19 team that won nationals, but it was made of multiple age groups.
Yeah.
Were you on that?
I was not on that team, but I was on we would play U23. That was just the style of JB, right? You'd be 17 or 18 and you'd be playing the
right.
U23s. That was just what we did. And so those were my experience of playing, of competing with that. That's just and as you got to like the 2021, they're like, you're too old to play U23.
You need to move up, lady.
And so it was just the style that we did, but that was just, the higher level of play that we were all trying to achieve and to compete at. And so that was just kind of what we were used to, and that's what you were shooting for.
That is awesome. So favorite experience from your time at any of those clubs? I mean, Dad had to be a great time. We talked about that, but like at a JB Marine and playing?
I think all the way through, because I've kind of thought about this quite a bit. I think as I go through like the entire career, there's like two like concepts that stand out versus like individual moments. The one that I always is always present in my brain no matter what, and that's the one I referred to as my parents. Since I was 4, my parents never missed one game until I graduated college. Every single home game, every single away game, wherever we traveled, to Nebraska, to Wisconsin, to Illinois, they made every single game.
Wow.
And that obviously stands with me. I mean, and that altered their work schedules where they were going in early and staying late, so they were off on Fridays because old school college was a Friday, Sunday, games, right?
Yes, gotta
and
remember.
that was, yep. And then you hop on a bus and then you get back and my mom, was a principal and she was able to kind of maneuver, so she was able to leave and get to school. And so I think that like more than anything stands out to me is just like this constant that through this through line through my entire career.
Didn't matter where you were, you had a couple of fans.
And I knew no matter what, when I looked at my stands, my parents were there.
Aww.
And I think that was like that was so important to me as a player, as a young lady, growing up and understanding that I just had this like constant support, and it never, no matter what I did, no matter how well or poor or how successful our team was, like they were just my number one fans, like from the jump, and all the way until, like I said, all the way until the last time I kicked the ball, in a competitive league,
right.
That they were there. And I think that is my first like one. And then when I look back to like club and high school and college, like there's some really cool moments of like state championships, and club and like big games and high school and college and district titles and in college competing for the Valley, and I think all of those things.
Yes.
But like the other constant is just my teammates. Like and I think back and like it's not individual games, it's like moments I got to share with them, like, and it's usually the celebrations, like you remember like the silly things that you would do when we were excited, or the road trips, or the bus rides,
or just some dorky thing that happened.
Things that are just not a statistic. You know what I'm saying? It's not a stat. That like resonates because that's where a lot of the friendships created that you have throughout your lifetime. And then again, as you're going to see now that we're all kind of coming back as the elders coming back in the coaching realm, right?
Veterans.
Yes,
We're not
that's
elders.
true. Experience. We have to use the word experience.
I was thinking of moments where it's like, those rogue moments that you don't even think about, but you somehow run into a former teammate or even an opponent and be like, remember the time when you fell over and farted in front of everybody? Like, those are the things that I think even stick with you more than, I remember some cool moments on the field, but those are probably the ones that at least bring the biggest smiles to my face.
Right? Like those, it's the silly part. You know what I'm saying? It's the reminder that at the end of the day, it's a game, and the game's supposed to be fun. Like, and so we're supposed to laugh. We're supposed to like.
Otherwise, what's the point, right?
What is the point? You know.
So high school, you mentioned. Were you doing? Was this also in the time where when I'm looking out at these at what's about to be a club game that's happening during Missouri high school soccer season? That didn't happen. That was not a thing that I particularly had to choose from. The only thing I had to choose from was occasionally maybe my high school softball coach being pissed because I got hurt in my club soccer game.
That's
right,
funny.
A different kind of a sport thing. But we just didn't have basically all year round soccer. So where was high school for you then?
High school was in spring, so I played at Duchesne. Like I said, another local shout out to those people as well. Under Dave Thurmer and Jamie Swanner.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so those were both the coaches during that time, and it was different then. I do often think about like what I would do in the situation if it was like the same thing, if it was the same scenario and the same opportunities that were here today, and I still think I'd play high school.
Yeah.
There's just like I said, I feel like there's so many things about it, and I'm a big proponent of like that as well. Like I'm not an either or type thing. I think that everybody needs to do what's kind of fits best for them.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a blanket answer for everybody.
I agree.
And I think that it does provide a lot of opportunities, and I've thought about it over and over again. I mean, doing it for 20 years, it's, you think about the benefits of that. And I kind of like thought about this, and I was like, high school still would have prepared me for college, because in high school, again, I know that the common language is, it's because, you play with your friends. And yeah, you do. But there's more to it. There's more opportunities than that, right? So on a personal level, we as coaches get to see our kids every single day. We know that in today's day and age that social media and mental health is difficult for kids.
That's a whole different podcast right there.
Right. But the reality is I get to check in with my kids on a daily basis. I get to spend bus rides talking to my kids one-on-one. How's things going? How are things for you? Like the personal connection piece. athletes, right? The responsibility of them to being students first and athletes second, right? Which at the end of the day, when they go play college, they're going for a degree.
Yeah.
You know, when it's all said and done, the majority of kids are not going to play professional. They're going to get an education. So being part of a community, it really brings like a sense of involvement, a sense of responsibility, a sense of I need to show up to school. I need to be a good representative of my team. I need to be a good student.
Right.
You know, and so I think it has that connection like in the mental health, social health aspect. But then I think like in the academic aspect, there's so many opportunities for recognition that is allowed in the high school game, right? So, I mean, when you are competing, you have the all region, all conference, all state.
Yeah, I'm looking at here on a piece of paper. I mean, let me just call this out before I this is amazing. And I can't read them all because we wouldn't have time for this. Annie, your Division I college achievement, Illinois State University. That's where you said Jackie Billett.
Correct.
So there's hey Billett, who coached you for a time. So soccer, St. Louis soccer, always connected.
Correct.
Right. But I'm looking from 1999 to 2002, whether it was being named Freshman of the Year or All Conference First Teams or Player of the Year. Were there any other things to achieve? Because I think you got them all in a bingo card of soccer. I think you did the full cover. I love it.
Thank you.
I mean, so many here.
Thank you.
Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Week 3 times, breaking records. First of all, congratulations on having that kind of career.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome because I know you're already moving into being a coach, but I don't want to let this go by without calling out some of your honors. Olympic torch runner in January 2002, playing for the Missouri. Whoops, it's windy today, folks. There's my paper. Missouri women's athletes, Missouri Valley Conference Women's All-Centennial Team. I mean, it just kind of being in the Hall of Fame as well. Congratulations on that, by the way. What a great career. And, you're still in it, too. We'll talk. I want to make sure we also talk about the women soccer coaches of St. Louis.
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk about a little bit of because you mentioned that, and it's something that recently, just a couple weeks ago, I was out at MERS Goodwill because St. Louis City was doing, they partnered with it, and Josh Yarrow was there to speak with the team. And first of all, Josh Yarrow is one of the best when it comes to volunteering for community. He likes to be in the community. He was asked by a reporter, why does this particular thing so important to you? Is because they were showing the light on how MERS Goodwill isn't just a thrift store, but also helps with education, people receiving degrees. And he said, because my college degree is so important to me. He's like, I'm a professional player right now, but I'm not going to be a professional player forever. And he said, I don't never know when that's going to end, but nobody can take my education away from me. Nobody can take my degree away from me. And you just kind of talked about that with the players playing for high school, that you're not just an athlete here. You're also representing yourself and your school and your team with your GPA, with the other things that you do, because this journey, looking out here, if you glance over there, we got 20, 40, maybe 40 soccer players getting ready to face off somewhere between the ages of 16. I don't know. There could be a couple 18-year-olds there. I don't know, but they're kind of a mixed group, right? They're going to face off, and they're in their prime. They look amazing. They're such great athletes, but it's going to come to an end. Hopefully not in a bad way, just old age, which, is why when I occasionally get do you want to play soccer? I'm like, I like to remember me being good. I don't like to be sore. At some point in time, it comes to an end.
Right.
And it did for you. What was that like, having this kind of resume, and then for that to come to an end? Parents were there. What was that feeling like for you?
Probably one of, if not the most difficult moments in your soccer career, is that
it's an identity loss, right?
It is. It's 100%. What do I do now? It's all I've ever known my entire life. And at that point, like I said, from 4 to at that point 20, 21 years old, it was day in, day out. You had achieved everything that you wanted to achieve. You know what I'm saying? It's like you completed the checklist, and then you're like, but now what? Like, the checklist is filled. And the opportunities that were around then were not the same that are around now. So there was very little opportunity post-college to continue that career.
Correct.
Right?
That's like a hole. There was, until you got to over 30, there was just almost a hole of, you could go do indoor. That was it.
Right. And I mean, I played semi-pro like the year after in that W League for the Windy City Blues when that existed at that time.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so that was based out of Chicago and we would play and compete and like that. But that was really kind of the culmination, unless you wanted to go overseas. And at that point in my time, the opportunity was there, but I was not ready. At that point, I was like, I kind of want to start my career, and so I had to kind of weigh what was in the best option, because certainly if you did travel and make that journey, make that decision, there was little to no money, and then you're like, how am I going to navigate this, and where am I going to go? And it just didn't have.
You get maybe a little bit more than the $10 per diem that the 85 women's national team got.
Right. I mean, that's why it's so wonderful that the opportunities that are available for young women today is just incredible, and like we're so grateful for them. And I do believe that the people that came before us, and then our generation and those right afterwards, are all people that helped make that possible. And so, had the people not before me had a demand for the W League, the W League wouldn't have even existed for me to even have that opportunity. And so then had people my age not maybe competed and say, well, we want more, then maybe the NPSL wouldn't have been an opportunity for women later on, right? So I think that, it is a generational, thank you to everybody, because it is steps in the right direction, and now there's more opportunities for women that didn't exist, at the time.
Okay, so just tell me how it hits for you then nowadays. How does that? I know how it's for me, and I think you were a much more accomplished soccer player than I was. It hits me hard, in a sometimes a bittersweet way. I won't lie, but often mostly just like wow, from it being a comedian's joke to being like nobody wants to watch women play anything, to now that joke, Bill Burr, thanks for that, and piss off. Bill Burr, nobody wants to watch women's soccer, and now we're packing stadiums. Right. In fact, the U.S. women's national team is more widely watched than the men's national team. Sorry, Matt, and you're fine. Sorry, this has nothing to do with you. This really has more to do with just a really hungry audience that hasn't been served for so many years.
Yes.
Little girls, and frankly, little girls inside of older women, myself, looking at these players and these opportunities. Kansas City Current has their own stadium.
I know.
What?
It's incredible. It's so great.
What is happening? We've got Coach Emma Hayes in there, and
who shout out to her for she's amazing.
Holy cow! If I could ever get her on here, I would bring us all together so we could just
yes.
all talk to her, and have her in the middle of a room. But just to have her being literally not a token coach, you know what I mean, but that truly like a pioneer in thinking about the game and how do I want to do it, and I don't want to do it necessarily the way it's been done before. How does this all hit you?
I think I'm excited for them, but I will say I'm a little jealous. A little jealous. Like the little girl inside of me is like, man, why wasn't this around?
Remember when you just changed in the backseat of a car because you didn't have a locker room?
It was like, wait, these facilities are incredible. Like the apparel's incredible. The social media, a whole layer of that just didn't even exist. And like the awareness piece of like supporting kids and giving people shout outs on social media and features and like all the things that like we just kind of missed out on.
Yeah.
It's equal parts. Like I'm equal parts like excited for them and equal parts like a little
jealous. Could I have just been in the little bit? Could I have waited to come to this earth one more generation later?
And then the reality of I'm an elder again sets in. So I think that's the hard part, and I think that's like it's a beautiful thing, and I don't think you ever really kind of let go of that, because I can tell you that there's times I have caught myself like watching a game just being like, man, I wish I could play.
Man,
man, I could do this, because now as you go on to your post collegiate game and you get into your pretty typical standard Veta leagues post competitive
the Veta leagues where it's like we all want to get up and work the next day, right? This is that kind of league.
And you're like, this is a little bit different than what I was used to, but as you kind of go into it, just everything kind of changes, and like that's a really hard reality to go from like competing at this like insane level to like, oh, okay, all right. Like the little things. It's just, I feel like that's a very difficult challenge. And I think that especially as I have aged, I realize that while my brain maybe still is processing at the rate it should, my body is not doing what my brain is telling it to do, So
I will tell you, like it was probably a month ago now, because I've somehow hurt my hip and I'm not playing right now. I don't know what I did, but I remember a play. I was just playing out at I think Ladue High School.
Yes, they have
the Sunday
League.
They have Sunday League. We did a little 7v7. I like that much better than us trying 11v11. What are we doing? But like there was one time I did something. I was like, yeah, look at that. And then the next time my body was like, oh no, we're not going to do any of that.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know what just happened. One of my kids was there, and they're like, we kind of fell, but we weren't really sure if you meant to do it, I'm like, yeah, I didn't know.
I know.
I'm
It's
just
really
glad
like
I
I
didn't
think
break
in my
anything.
head, I for sure cut around you.
I looked so
And,
good.
Yeah, like it was going really well. You just didn't move at the rate I needed you to move. You know what I'm saying?
which is out of my way.
Yes. Right. So I think that's a harsh reality of just like
Or some jerk on your team sends it long, and you're like, "What? No,
Yeah,
no,
I'm gonna need you to play
I
my
did that
feet."
20 years ago, and I'm never running like that again." To
Right.
feet.
Feet. And
Anyway.
I'll get grief from that as well, because I think that was probably a tell for me for a lot of my career was still just give it to my feet.
Yeah.
That was my preference.
I mean, I did like it. I actually had some speed, so I liked it into space. Like, let's go. But anymore, I'm like, if you put it into space, it's going to stay there, and I'm going to send a kid to go get it.
Yes.
Because that's why I bring them.
Right.
Anyway, I digress. So we're talking a little bit about you stepping away and how hard that was. But soccer wasn't done with you. So when did you get back? Did you continue just staying involved in coaching? Were you just kind of suckered in?
Oh, I coached from the jump. So like
Okay.
it was my first grad. So I'm year 21 at high school right now. So since I'm not even tell you how old I was when I started, because then you'll figure out how old I currently am. But
I'm
let's
older.
just say post college, it was my very first job.
Parkway. Are you Parkway West right now?
Yes.
Or is that, yes. So you've been Parkway West all the way through.
All the way through.
Dang.
So
okay.
from the second I graduated college, it was my first job, and it's been the same one. And so I was probably in my second year of coaching before I was moved to the head varsity position. So I was about 22, 23, and took over the head of the program.
The boys and girls, right?
I was
Or
assistant for the boys
Okay.
for about 10-ish years, and then I was been the head of the girls the entire time. So up until, like I said, just having kids and doing different things, you had to give up something. So I ended up giving up the boys and going a different path. But
Yeah.
but the girls I've had now for 21 years, and so like it's just been kind of something. I think if you talk to most coaches, they all want to give back to the game, and it's the only way they know how.
Yeah.
It's like you can't compete anymore, and you love it, and you have a passion for it, and you still have that competitive edge. And coaching just seems like the next best thing. How can I stay involved? How can I help develop the youth to love it, to be passionate about it, to excel at it? And it just seems like a natural fit for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so it was something I always wanted to do, and so I just took the opportunity from the early beginning.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of, too, I think high school, I never coached that myself. I've coached kids of high school age, but just not high school. And I don't know how I would, and I guess college is the same conundrum, right? Like, it's never the same team.
No.
If you have like 9 seniors that graduate, and they were big, it could be most of your team is gone. And now I would imagine that's probably the same parts challenging as it is frustrating.
A little bit.
Maybe fun?
It is fun, though, because I think that's the reality. Like, the reality is, like, the more diverse of experience a kid can get, the better off you're going to be, right? The more variety in player styles, people's strengths, like learning how to feed off of different people. Because as you go into, other competitive realms, or you want to play in college and stuff like that, you're going to play with different people that have different strengths. It's not going to be the same core people that all play the same style. You're going to start over again.
Yeah, basically.
You are. And the harsh reality is when you look around, everybody is the best of the best from where they came from. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, and so it's a whole different adjustment. And so I think the more people, the more coaches you could get, the more players that you can kind of get experiences, because I think everybody brings something to the table, and it's the responsibility of a competitive athlete to take and grasp and learn from every single person that they meet.
Yeah.
That's why, like I said, I love the idea of variety of coaches, because everybody brings something different, and they have, like I said, different niches that they're really good at, and they go through, you teach them, and then they move on. And so you take the best from every single coach, and I think that's what truly develops a great player. So I love that idea of exposure of, like I said, of the different clubs, like I said, of the high school and things like that. It's just opportunity, and I think that's so important for kids, and it's the reality, right? So even though like people are coming and going, that's how it is in college, right? You have people that are transferring, you have injuries that the kids are going to be out for an entire season, or they decide this is not the right fit for me and they transfer schools. I mean, it's a constant change.
Was that a thing when we were?
It was not a thing.
I don't remember people like there being a window. I mean, I don't remember. People probably did leave, and I didn't pay any attention. I mean, I was at Lindenwood, and I wasn't going to go anywhere. So I mean, I was already committed. I didn't want to redo anything.
Right.
So.
This portal thing is just a whole nother thing that is unique and a different variable that girls have to kind of deal with nowadays, and any kid that's in the college realm is going to have to kind of deal with. So I think that's just, it's again, the ever changing piece is just something that is, I think, important for athletes too, because it's, especially I loved going in at 14 years old and being able to play, because I was a young 14 going into high school, being able to play with 17 and 18-year-olds. That helped me.
Didn't they seem so cool? But also
Yes.
that was like, they're so big.
Oh my God, they're so big. I mean, I vividly remember being leveled in one of my first games, kind of like, welcome,
Hello.
Yes,
How are you?
leaning over as
Oh
I'm,
my God.
picking up dirt out of my teeth, and then like, okay, so this is a whole different ball game.
I remember that
loved
even
it.
in college, you think, I remember thinking like, I'm a grown adult now. I'm a woman. I'm 18. And I get there, there are 22-year-olds. I'm like, oh no, I'm not done.
Oh,
I hope I'm not done, because she's gonna crush me.
Yes, and I think with that, like,
And she did.
yes. The challenge of that, though, is what's exciting. You're like, because you're like, whoa, this is hard. Nobody wants to do what's easy. Easy is boring, right? Like,
For a true competitor, I agree.
Easy
Yes.
is boring, right?
Agreed.
Like it's not fun, and so you want to be challenged. And I think, like I said, putting yourself in situations where you can, have some of those experiences of playing against people that are bigger, faster, stronger is ultimately what people want. And I think, like I said, in high school for me, I was able to accumulate the recognition that was going to allow me to get recruited for college. And so that's why I think that was so important, because I think that's that element of there's just so many accomplishments that you're able to kind of capture, and at the end of the day, you got to build your resume, right? So I think that's the hard part, that I felt for us as youth, is we were doing everything we can to build our resume, because everybody was on a good team, and so you had to set yourself apart between, like I said, at our time, like I said, JB, and there's all these kids at JB that were all playing, and you had
They're
your
all
Bush,
good.
and everybody's good, right? So if I were to just submit that, hey, we're state champs, you're like, well, so is this girl, and so is this girl, and so is this girl.
What else you
But
got?
What else you got?
What else you got?
Right. And so it just provided me opportunities to say, okay, well, here's what else I have, and so it kind of gave me a little bit of an edge. And Jackie actually herself came and recruited. I remember my final game at St. Charles West. She came from ISU to watch and recruit us in that setting. And so, and it was against another peer, which Dana Burns, shout out to her. She was playing at St. Charles West, and we were both being recruited by the same team, and we were getting to play head to head. And so it was a good opportunity.
Did
for
you
her
guys
to come.
know at the
She
time?
did tell us, and we both got a hat trick in the same game. I mean, we were
Shut
going at
up.
it. We were going
Okay.
at it. And at the end of the day, we're like, that was fun.
The rest of the players are like, well, no, it's just these two.
I mean, but at the end of the day, it was like, that was really fun. And then we both were like, let's both go, you know.
And you both went?
And we both went.
And now you were teammates.
Yes,
So
yeah, and it was just, like it came full circle, but it was just that opportunity, like I said, and again, things have changed, but she was a perfect example of somebody who came in and watched us play, and it was a good opportunity for us to see head to head, and it was just cool. And she wouldn't have seen that in the club setting, because we both played for JB, but different ages. So I was a young, so she played 1 year above me, so she wouldn't have been able to see us play against each other in club, because she was like, I believe, an 80 and I was an 81.
Yeah.
And so because in high school we were able to kind of go match head to head and get a good look, and so
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool opportunity too. So I don't know, it's just like I said, it was fun. Like I mean, I have anything but positive experiences about my time in soccer.
and
but-
I did as well. I will admit, though, that, to your point, I don't know what I'm not in this situation as a player. I don't know what I would choose.
Yeah.
And I can see why here's the one thing. I like the options.
Yes.
I like that the
I
kids
think
have
the kids should
options,
have
right?
options.
If they want to go composite and they want to stay in that for whether it's their one recruit year after your sophomore year, which still blows my mind. Well, I wasn't even thinking about anything until winter of my senior year.
I mean, right? You couldn't
school.
get phone calls
We
till like
know.
the start of your
We were-
junior year. You know what I'm saying?
Like
It was
at least maybe
right,
longer.
and then things were limited as to how often they could talk to you. I mean, it was a whole different.
You actually had to
ballgame.
talk to people, which is
Yeah,
we didn't
yeah.
have text. You had to pick up the phone,
Right,
kids.
right.
But yeah, so I do like that there's options. I know that it can be hard, but I from working a little bit with the St. Louis Champions League,
Yeah.
of course, right, and just doing. I've only done one of the best 11 interviews this year, but I always like to ask that question, and each player has a little bit of different perspective on, this is what I get from club, and it's also, by the way, different with your different team.
Absolutely.
But one of the common responses that I think we get is, besides playing for your school, is oftentimes these players get to play a different position,
Correct.
right? You might have somebody where you are a stud wing back, right? Like that is your thing. You go end line to end line and you go with the serve, but you might play for your high school team that does not need you there. They need you to be a striker. And that is so cool and fun in a way that and then see how you adapt and see how and I would think that I don't know how often, I don't think you're going to get. So I'm sorry. UCLA is probably Marguerite Azaza is probably not trekking into St. Louis.
Right.
Maybe, but on a general basis to find players. But Katie Shields is.
Yes, she is.
Derek Burton is from SIUE. All the locals.
Steph Golan from Mizzou's coming in.
Steph Golan, who I almost had on this podcast.
Another JB.
I'm a getter.
Another JB.
I know. I keep hearing. I'm like, damn it! I wanted to be on the team. I want to go back in time and try out see if I would make it. But yeah, they do it. And by the way, even if that might not be a school that you want to go to, guess what? They talk. And if you make a good impression and you want to go somewhere, I don't know a coach that probably wouldn't help you and say, hey, this would be a great school fit for you. We hate to miss you, but that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that versatility piece is essential for anybody, right? Like, there's nothing bad with learning other positions. I love that from the perspective because sometimes I didn't understand, like, maybe frustrations that a teammate might experience until I went and played their positions. Like,
and they're like, oh, no wonder you're mad at me for putting it on that foot.
Yeah, or I get why you want me to check into that space because now I see what it looks like from your view, So that was really helpful. I mean, I think leadership opportunities is also another opportunity in a competitive nature. Playing time, right? Traditionally, you get a little bit more playing time at the high school level. But again, I don't think there's a blanket answer. I do agree with that. I mean, I think people have to do what is best for them, and only them and their family know what is the best path for them.
And I think the best thing for soapbox here, everybody's already heard it. But soapbox is whatever it is, just support the kid.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, so if you're high school coach and or like say seniors at a really good team and this sophomore, junior wants to do composite, just support. Just support and say we miss you and we hope you're back. Yeah. And same thing on the club side. Just support.
Yeah.
Go see a game.
Yes.
Go
and I've had that
them.
Conversation with kids and it's gone both ways. I'm saying, I said at the end of the day, it's your choice. You do what's best for you, but you always have a spot.
Right.
I want you to succeed because let's be honest, we're all in this for kids. Yeah. Right. You're like, no matter what you coach, like it's for kids. And so
we had our day.
Yeah. It's not about us. It's about what is in the best interest of them and how can we support them to achieve whatever dream that they have, because it's also not the same dream for every kid.
And if they do have that, I know I find myself occasionally trying to remind myself of you can't protect your kid from regret. Mm-hmm. Regret is sometimes the way you learn. Like, I should have, next time I'll choose differently. It's really okay. If they choose one and then go, I should have chosen the other, unless it's their senior year, they probably have a chance to try that again. So what's really hurt? Nothing. Experience. They got experience.
And let them choose themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where we kind of run into that gauntlet. Like we don't no pressure from outside forces. At the end of the day, it's their lives and their choice. You know what I'm saying? Right. And we should just be supporting them. And so I think that's definitely something I agree with it as well. And I've had the conversations, the difficult ones with kids, and I've had it where they've decided that was not the path that they want to take. And I've also had them come back and say, you know what, I wish I would have played. And either way, it's whatever's best for you. I said I support you, and it's not about, like I said, our team and how that's going to impact me, because that's a selfish approach. Yeah. I'm saying, of course I want you to play for me.
Of course. And to remind the player, too, the fact that they're disappointed means they wanted you. That's an okay response.
Like, you're a great player. Of course we want you. Yes. You know what I'm saying? But again, I don't know what is in your best interest, and only they can make those decisions. So I think it's just my responsibility as an adult, as a coach, as a teacher, to support them as people, because at the end of the day, like, again, the game's going to eventually end, right? We're trying to teach them also how to be good human beings, right? And they have to be accountable for their choices, and there's natural consequences for choices.
That's right.
And I think that's an important life lesson for teenagers.
Right. That's exactly right. And I'm looking at the time, like, we can go a little bit beyond. I'll take you for as long as I can have you. This is fun. We'll probably do part two. But I want to also talk about your continued work in the game. So besides being a longtime high school coach who kicks ass with that experience, longtime experienced. It's funny, we've had Lori Kolupny on the podcast too, and just like, if I were her, I would just be wearing my medal to every practice.
Right?
For you got to have some trophy that you should just have with you. Be like,
I do have the torch still.
Oh my God, I'd bring that and be like, somebody can hold this today, unless you don't want them to hold. They'll hold this today if you win.
That's funny. Yeah.
This is an actual Olympic torch. Thank you very much. But there's something else that you're involved in. First of all, let me wrap it up. Any favorite parts about the high school experience? I don't want to go past the high school experience before we. You spent a lot of time there in that game, and it's. the amount of change I'm thinking that you've seen in your time,
it's incredible.
From, whatever those little beta tapes that we use to now, you just flip on a phone or, I don't know, I'm looking here and there's got to be a VO camera set up here somewhere.
That's just automatically recording and huddle video.
The huddle. I see it. Somebody, there it is. Somebody's setting currently. The teams are still warming up. They're a little closer. You can hear the ball occasionally hitting the net. Oh, one's in the net now. I'm so glad we're behind the net, Annie. But here we got probably a good parent setting up the VO, which you can do live many times.
Oh my gosh, the cool spotlight features. I mean, these are all things that we were cutting film, and there's this disruptive static, and then you go into the next video footage and then static. Now these kids have it to
Ladies,
music.
Somebody just send it over this big net. What are you doing? Anyway, yes.
No, yeah. So, they have, what I'm saying is they have things they're dynamic and they have it to film and they have these massive highlight videos and it's just so high tech. It's wonderful. It's a cool opportunity that, again, another jealous aspect that we didn't have at the time, and I think
in some ways,
great.
though, I don't know. There was a really smart player that I did back when I was doing kind of some mindset work, mental performance work. She's might be a senior, I think. Yeah, I think she's a senior. And she committed, but we did some mindset work, and she was just one of those really smart. And she's like, I think we should be required. I get I have to put my highlight reels together. I do appreciate when coaches make the kids do it. I love that. Have them take person, but besides, they're faster at it than we are anyway.
Right.
My kids do it faster on the phone anyway. But she said, I think we should be required to make low light videos. And I said, what do you mean by that? And she's like the bad stuff that happens, the bloopers. And she's like, and then how you respond to that. I was like, oh, she's ahead of her time and thinking, because think about what a highlight is.
Of course, it's your best.
That's the way my 14-year-old son thinks. I wish I had his brain that just only remembers the good stuff he did every game. It's like he's his best hero in his mind. I love that.
Right.
But there are times and I would think you tell me from a coach perspective that those can be as redeemable and marketable as the killer shot you just hit from outside the 18.
Yeah, and I think some of the college coaches that I've been having communication with, they also like just give me about 10 minutes uncut. Give it to me raw. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Because in there you're not going to get the edits. You're not going to get just the highlights. You're going to get something that lets you, because everyone's going to look good in highlight video.
Right?
Right?
I would look amazing. I put filters on it.
Yeah. All the things like, this is me. I'm doing something great. Look at me.
Applause and applause in the background.
But that's a true raw, thing. It's not necessarily the 90-minute game or the 80-minute game, whatever you're playing, but give me just uncut footage.
This is good. And I've heard coaches also say, if they're able to and time allows, they're not only watching the product, it doesn't take me long to figure out if I'm at a game what the product on the field is, right? But I am watching how they are when the ball's out of bound. I'm watching what happens when their team messes up. Are they messed up? I'm watching their bench behavior. I've even had a coach say, if I do happen to see them in a parking lot, I watch that behavior too.
Yeah.
I want to know who they are as a human.
Right. Because at the end of the day, like I said, we're creating people. You know what I'm saying? And character is more important than the game. And so if you create a good person, you're going to create a good player.
Yeah.
They're directly connected, right? It's not possible to be, it is possible to not necessarily be a great player, but your likelihood is going to go up if you have all the characteristics of, trustworthiness and honesty and integrity and hard work and all those things. Nothing bad's going to come of that, even if it doesn't end up in having an amazing scholarship or going on to a professional team, right? That doesn't have to be the end goal for everybody, because it's not for the majority.
Yeah.
It's just, again, teaching you things that you're going to be able to apply in life post soccer, and I think that's, like I said, that's what the game teaches. That's one of the most wonderful things about the game of soccer. It's so incredibly complicated, but it's also really simple too.
It really is.
But what it teaches you is far more than the game, right? It's how to win with class. It's how to lose, with
class.
dignity. Yeah, with dignity, and understand that, you just got outplayed that day, or you got outworked, or they're better than you, and that's okay. And you make note of it, and you maybe decide that's not going to happen again, right?
Which I think is the entire point of the journey, right?
Right? That's what's beautiful about it. Learning to play with different people that you get along with or that you might not get along with. Whatever it is, I'm saying? The game's a beautiful game in that sense. And I think it is, like I said, incredibly complicated and simple, yet at the exact same time.
That's awesome. I have so many more questions for you. I know we're running out of time, but I want to be sure I also talk about not only the fact that you were an accomplished player, but, let's also just go overachieve as a coach. Once an achiever, always an achiever, right? Your coaching honors from, in 2014, 100 wins, 2022, 200 wins, like all conference coach of the year, repeating region, all-star game coach. So you just decided I'm going to be awesome. I'm just going to be awesome at everything I do.
No, just going to give my absolute best. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But like I said, that's trial and error, just like everything else, right?
What do you think something goes into getting those honors? What is it? I mean, then it could be like, I'm sure 100 different variables. What do you think it was for you? Or even playing too, like there's
very
a lot
persistent.
Okay.
I'm saying very persistent in terms of this. I was probably the one that you would see at the field before everybody else, and I was the one that was there after everyone else. And I think that
Mia Hamish, huh?
Yeah, not even remotely close, but she was really awesome, and I looked up to her. But
by the way, the wind has picked up. I'm putting my jacket back on for everybody.
But that was that was something that I took pride in too. It's like some of this is just on me. It's not on anybody else to teach me that or to do these type of things. It's am I willing to put in the extra work because I knew somebody else was, and if I wasn't the one doing it, they're doing it, and that was the only way I continued to kind of challenge myself, and that worked out for me really well. The amount of times, like I said, I went to a local park with my dad with a soccer goal with no net with these just wooden these mud patches everywhere.
Then you got to chase the ball
right every single time. But like those are the moments that actually I feel like gave me an elevated play against everybody else because I was willing to put in the work extra. And this idea of thinking that there's something more out there, there's something more, and just never being satisfied, I think was ingrained in me because I think that that's an important element too, that you can always be better. Even when you are doing well and even when you're succeeding, you can still get better. Like your touch is never perfect. You know what I'm saying? The way you strike your ball is never perfect. You're never going to hit perfection. So keep shooting for it.
Yeah.
And it's an unattainable goal, but it does give you, like I said, the motivation, like, well, how close can I get to it?
I think that's perfect. I was just about to ask you, how do you balance that constant never being enough, right? Always reaching, but also acknowledging how far, like acknowledging your wins. Did you find you're able to? I just find sometimes I run into players, especially in the mindset area of work, that they're reaching, but they're never satisfied, but they also sometimes don't celebrate how far you've come,
I get that.
Right?
And I think that there's in times probably historically I probably should have more. I'm more grateful probably post career than I was in that moment. But I do vividly remember, like I said, my junior year of college was kind of when I felt like I really fell into my own. Like this is me, and that's where I had my most success, like on paper, kind of in regards to that. And I think the way that was kind of going through this is I just let things happen organically, and I just played the game. Like it was like I didn't have to try. Like the harder I tried, sometimes the game was just like the more that I couldn't score, the more I couldn't get that ball across the field to my teammate to slide it in. Yes, and I just do what I know how to do and what I've been trained to do, and it will organically happen for me. And that year, I let that play out, and I went into games being like, I'm going to score today, not like I have to score today. It was I will, and that usually happened, and so that was really helpful. And I think that shift of mentality of just like do what I've been trained to do and let the game play out how it's going to play out, and all the skills that everybody's taught me will naturally come out because you've been doing it over and over and over again. So I think that's what helped as well.
You're talking. It's so interesting. I would think with the way you're speaking that you might also coach the game beyond. They've started. They've begun the game. Somebody has
first
scored.
save.
Okay. Oh, first save.
Oh no, it's a goal.
It was a goal. Was that my team? I don't think it was my. Hey, boo! I don't think it was my. Hey, girls, let's get on the horse. I think you guys got scored on. What's happening? Dang it! Anyway, I forgot my question. Oh. Is just talking. You're very much to me talking beyond the touches, right? So right now we're watching a game where there's a bunch of great touches and great shots, but somebody just got scored on. So there's your mental game right there. Do you find you coach that as well? Because you talk like you do.
Yeah. I think that's important. It's quick memories, right? We constantly tell the Kings not to dwell on things because the more you dwell on things, then the second mistake happens and the third mistake happens because you keep thinking about it, right? You keep thinking about your previous mistakes. Well, at the end of the day, we spend a lot of times on character education and mental health and stuff stuff like that with kids. You can't change what's already happened, but you can also control how you adapt to things and how you respond to things. There are so many things that are outside of our control in this game, but how you respond to things is 100% in your control. And I think that mentality and approach and reminder to kids that that's on you, to have a quick memory. That's on you. While you're dwelling about you losing the ball, well, you had 2 or 3 steps, you could have already gotten that ball back.
Sometimes in a better position.
Right. It's wasted time. It's wasted energy. It's wasted effort for nothing. And so the quicker that you have that response, and there's that resistance, there's that resiliency in life, there's the adversity, right? It's all big picture.
So you're not just teaching how to touch a ball, kick a ball, and all that stuff that we'll eventually not really be able to do as well as we remember. Thank you, helicopter, for coming overhead.
Great timing.
Great timing. But you're also teaching those, you can use those skills anywhere. Like, how do I take 100% responsibility for what I can, and use that in the moment? And geez, if we had more adults walking around like that, things would be a lot better, right?
Right, absolutely. I think so too.
And I asked you too also about so it was funny when you walked up as you was getting ready for this luxurious setup of a podcast with helicopters overhead and soccer games on a trash can. It was like, we've met, which is typical in soccer world. And I met you at Women's Soccer Coaches of St. Louis. You guys had kind of a seminar with Lori Kolupny, Lindsay Kennedy Eversmeyer, Ruth Harker, and Novas. Lydia Novas. And it was great. You guys had snacks. Thank you for that. I think Harper ate, way too many snacks. If you had too many snacks gone, she took them. And I'm pretty sure the Gettemeyers also had her get some. I was sitting by the Gettemeyers, and it was great. What made that pop up? I remember somehow getting invited. I think Annie Mertz invited me to the group, and I was like, this is cool. But I don't know the story. How did that come about?
So myself, Jordan Shabatic from Kirkwood High School, and Annie Mertz, who had spent time coaching at Ursuline and Fire and Ice and UMSL, we all kind of got this idea and this notion here that there's just not enough representation of women coaches.
Oh, really? Yes. I'd like to talk about that a lot.
So,
and there's a lot of reasons behind that, everybody.
There are. And the more research we did, and I did a lot of research, I started looking up percentages of things, right? Like how many women are coaching in high school. And, out of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, it's about 20 to 25%. And then I started researching, looking at all the club pages that are around and how many women are in leadership positions. I know they're coaching, but how many are in leadership positions?
Yeah, not the team manager. And I'm not saying thank you, team managers, love you, but not in the administrative assistant kind of positions.
Right, leadership positions, right? So we're trying to teach our women, to shoot for the moon, and they need to have people in those positions that are doing the very job that they want to do. If we're supposed to be sitting there saying, let's empower women, well, they need to see empowered women. And so I think that's exactly what our mentality was just there's just not enough, and we need a support system, we need a safe place to speak, we need to be able to share our wins and get support from our losses in terms of things that we're struggling with as a team and best practices, and give a platform in which we can all communicate and network, which was huge as well, right? Because more and more women are coaching and more do want these positions. And I think we thought we just want a seat at the table. Right?
You made a table.
Right.
I think you made a table.
And it's and the difference in our approach is we want everybody there.
Yeah, by the way, there were several guy coaches there that night too. I was so impressed to see that.
And we were too, and that's exactly what we're going for. We want our separate thing. We want to be included, in the conversations. We want to have people in positions of power that are going to make positive changes for women's soccer that are women, right? Because a lot of these girls that these coaches are all talking to have all done what these girls want to do. They've all played in college. And some went on to play professionally, and even more played in the Olympics, right? If that's your goal, you need people in those positions that are going to give, that type of insight to young girls, And so I think that's an important opportunity. And I think that what we've been trying to do is, like I said, is kind of build that community of support and awareness for other women and coaches, and try to, like I said, expand our community, because our coaches, in the beautiful part of this organization is that we have CYC coaches in it, we have our club coaches in it, we have our high school coaches in it, and we have college coaches in it.
So you're creating community.
Correct. And the cool part is we're seeing women from outside of the St. Louis area that want in. You know?
Really?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And a couple of them, the college coaches are like, hey, I got wind of this, or we send out a newsletter
and now it
every year.
becomes networking.
And that's what we're talking about too, you know?
Yeah.
And this idea of like we send out newsletters, and sometimes our newsletters are getting forwarded to other people outside of our state.
Yeah, look at this.
And then
Right.
we're getting invited, and we have that. So we have a private page that's for our women, and we also have a public page that we're trying to, like I said, support.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that,
Tell me about how people, podcast is mainly about you, but I figure if we have a moment,
No, please,
to
please.
if people want to get at least follow or get involved, how do they do that?
Yeah, so we have an actual webpage that people can follow, which is, you know, the Women's Soccer Coaches of St. Louis. We do put out monthly newsletters that, like I said, that go over team bonding, character, nutrition, coaching seminars that are coming up. We put our best drills for the month there. I mean, it's just an opportunity, a place for people to get information and to share and collaborate. We celebrate. We do spotlight coaches, so an opportunity to celebrate our peers, and so we do stuff like that. And so we do have a public, like I said, and a private page. Our private page is for the women, so it's their safe space for them to be able to share and ask questions and collaborate. And I've even done a few like
anybody been the head coach and asked to talk to the head coach?
Yeah.
Who
Or
hasn't
it's
that
like
happened
anybody
to?
else. We take polls like, what's the pulse right now? Are we good? Do we need help? You know,
what's happening?
But I mean, it's provided. I know I recently had an opportunity to Zoom with some other coaches as well and talk to them about like, hey, what's working for you guys? How can we help? You know, and just like I said, the conversations that I think like that we're having is really nice because our network is expanding, and we all, you know, St. Louis is such a small but a large soccer community. Everybody knows everybody.
It is,
and it does never hurt to network.
No,
you know,
right.
the more you know, the more, like I said, your influence can be on other people because there's the connection. Oh, you know who that person coaches there. I know exactly. I could put in a good word for you there, you know, and that's ultimately what we're wanting for our coaches, looking for jobs, opportunities, but more and more women are coaching, and we want them also to have more of leadership positions.
You know, I love that because just for this past St. Louis Soccer Hall of Fame dinner, I got a burr up my rear end, and I'm like, I'm gonna make my own damn table. Like, I'm gonna wait to be. I could buy a table and then get people to pay me for the seats because I can't afford that. But Annie Mertz came from this, and it's I had the best time, and not that I've been to the St. Louis Soccer Hall of Fame. Yes, I paid attention to the awards. I will say our table had a lot of fun. There's probably a good reason we were in the back, and we were there, of course, to celebrate not only all the members, but we'll give some little extra applause for the women going
the new
in,
ones, right? The new.
But I think the coolest part of that night for me wasn't even the awards part. Like, that was fun. But it was just being a fly on the wall and hearing the conversations with the women at the table. I mean, we have Hall of Famers, women's national team. Ruth Harker was there. Kathy Casso, Hall of Famers at UMSL. Annie Mertz was there representing kind of you guys and what she also does. And it was just cool to kind of hear cross conversations and people who, like you just said, knew somebody who knew somebody in the game, or they were coached, you know. Everybody's coached by Vader except me. But it was just kind of a fun thing. And it was, I came off that night feeling probably more fulfilled and fun than I had done at any previous dinner. I haven't been able to make all of them, but just because it was a place that I felt like I belonged at that table one way or the other.
Yep.
And there were a lot of people, we had different journeys, but we all had some similarities.
Yeah, and when you fill your bucket, you're able to fill other people's buckets, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's that part of like celebrating each other because
We got to get 2 tables next year.
Yeah,
okay, let's do
for
that.
sure,
We'll do
right?
it.
Because I think this idea of like my success does not have to be somebody else's failure. We could all have successes, and we could all share in that joy. It doesn't have to be an I win, you lose.
Right.
It could be we all win.
Only out there on the pitch right there.
That's 100% I win, you lose. But other than that,
100% white team. You need to score right now. I
Right.
don't know what's happening.
in that regard, absolutely. But like in the big picture, it doesn't have to be
Right.
like we can all celebrate a success for another woman and a success for another coach and all those things. And I think that's what that platform is supposed to be.
Love
It's
it.
just like it's just women rooting on other women and saying like awesome, look for you, or you have that so many modest, wonderful coaches out there that won't give themselves a shout
yes.
out.
Please,
you know?
can we women? Okay, women. This. Can you hear me for just a second? Women coaches, players, cut the crap. Stop being so modest about your achievements because dudes do it all the time. In fact, dudes often brag about stuff they never even did. So let's just, all you have to do is be mildly honest about what you did and own that shit and be like, yeah, I was it doesn't look like it now, but I was a badass back in the day.
And they were. They
And
really were.
They really were.
I know. It's
mean,
incredible. Like if some of these players
would
knew
crush you.
how good their coaches actually are, both in the club world and the high school world and the college world. If you only knew, your coach was really good.
Right.
You know? And
again, Lori Kolupny, start wearing that medal on the field, okay? When you coach.
And if you're not wearing it, can I?
Yeah, can I have it? I'll just wear it around. I'll lie. I'll just flat out lie. Well, I know we're towards the end of our hour, which I don't really have a total time limit here, which is cool. But I do want to also mention the fact that you're a mom. You're also, are you a soccer mom at this point?
Not yet.
No,
I have
okay.
littles. I have one that's going to be 4 in 2 weeks, and I have another one that's going to
cute.
be almost 18 months in about 3 weeks.
Oh,
so they're
adorable.
littles, and they're everything. Like I said, the most rewarding.
But are they a part of your world? I find
Yes, they are my world.
Katie, meaning sorry, how I meant that was I'm thinking of Katie Shields at SLU, who was like, my child's also being raised by a bunch of players. They
I'm guilty of that
sometimes
as
they
well.
have to be around you. You don't have
They
no
do,
choice.
and actually, they're the best babysitters I probably could have got. Right, they're all my former players. One of my coaches right now, who, like I said, at West. So that's shout out to Erica Anstein and also my other assistant John Sloop and my brother Jeff Wayland. But
there you go.
Erica is actually one that coaches with me and also babysits my child at the same time, and so she's been great at that as well. But I have had a number of kids that have come back that have played for me that have also been assistant coaches that also just happen to be really good babysitters too.
Right. And you probably don't even know yet, but what does that do to your kids' brains? Meaning just being a part of an athletic environment among staff and young women, older girls, young women who are just athletes, I think fundamentally alters their reality in a way that you and I were just kind of starting to get, and definitely our mothers and our grandmas never had any of that. It wasn't even a reality. I mean, it's just going to be their reality being like, yeah, girls play soccer or whatever.
Right, and they're really
and my
good.
mom's coaching, and here's some women refereeing as well. It's just going to be a part of it. It's, in other words, sometimes we do a really good job. I think we do a much better job nowadays at celebrating the few or the one, right? The Simone Biles or the Caitlin Clarks, and we need that, right? But it isn't the ultimate goal for it to be like, yeah, no big deal, because like everybody does this, right? One day,
yeah, and that there's now plans where, like I said, there's opportunities for women they're being encouraged. Go ahead and have your family, and then come back. That they don't feel like they're, especially those women that were playing in the Olympic team and stuff like that. There's that fear of like, am I going to get my spot back? Like, what does that mean? Who's going to watch my kid? And now they're actually kind of creating opportunities that are embracing that.
By the way, that's another podcast that dads don't. They just don't deal with it. I mean, I was there when Jake Nerwinski on St. Louis City, and they had their baby last year. And other than the fact that, he has to get his rest, his body's not ravaged by pregnancy.
Right.
He's not trying to come back physically from that. And he acknowledged that, like that he couldn't imagine.
And the extra pressure of coming back to such a high level that those women are experiencing.
And your body it's
incredible.
Fundamentally changed. Not to mention, again, this is a different podcast. Just societally, we've got a lot of, set up where I have far more seen kids in tow for women soccer players and women coaches of any sport than you will ever typically find for a man's sport, whether they're coaching and or playing. You're starting to see it a little bit more now, but I think it's always been our reality.
And it's always starting to be the norm, too, where you're starting to see them at the field with these coaches. Like it's just now just what people do.
Yeah.
They're bringing them with them, and the kids know exactly what they do. They know where they're supposed to go. They know what area they can play at, and they know that everybody's looking out for them, too. It's like it's a built-in family that's, like I said, that's outside your immediate family. And, I mean, what more can you get from more people to love on your kids? Like, there's nothing greater than people that all care about your family. So bring it in, like as much love as I can get for a kid and let them know that they're seen and that they're supported. I mean, that's a beautiful thing, and that's something that's I'm very grateful for as well.
All right, so I got to ask you, what kind of soccer mom are you going to be? What do you think? Are you going to be like hiding on the sidelines at an end? Are you going to be in the middle? Are you going to ring a cowbell?
Absolutely not.
Remember those cowbells?
Absolutely not. I'll probably take the same approach my parents did, which is I'll be off to the side. I think that's probably safest for everybody, for both the rest of the parents and myself. Like I said, there's a part of me that in the early years I do want to be a part of it, but then I really just want to watch.
Yeah.
I really just want to let them do their thing, and as much as I really, really, really want them to play soccer, I want them to just do whatever makes them happy. And I hope that that's the journey that they take, but it might not be. But either way, I'm going to be their biggest fan, no matter what they choose.
I'm only like, there's a corner kick, but they went for a short corner. So dang it. Come on, white team. Okay. And final question. So much wisdom, right? With veteranship comes wisdom. Anything you want to expound upon, whether you want to talk to the player who's being forced to listen to this on the car ride because mom and dad are like, listen to this podcast, or it's for the parents who, sometimes maybe we don't always parent the game the right way with our players. But in all the years of playing, what stuck out to you, I know, as a player was kind of that persistence. Mm-hmm. What sticks out to you otherwise that we can impart wisdom upon the people listening and saying, this is how you could do it better?
Yeah, I think that as I've grown older, like the competitiveness is still there, but like I said, it's more in perspective as I've gained maturity. Like I have reminded myself at the end of the day, and I tell kids, it is just a game. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, when this is all said and done, it's just a game. So don't do things to yourself like outside your physical limitations. You know what I'm saying? If you're not in a good place mentally to do it, like I said, take care of yourself first. If your grades aren't where they need to be a student first. You know what I'm saying? Like that this is supposed to be a fun thing as well. And I know that that's hard for me because I am still super competitive, and my players will vouch for, like, if I ever jump in a drill, we're not done until my team's winning.
Looking out.
Yeah, like the drill's going to keep going until my team's winning, and then we're done.
And then beep, game over.
Amazing, we're done.
So like,
I know that part of me is still there, but I do have to often remind myself at the end of the day that there's other variables that kids are dealing with, and there's other things that are happening in their personal lives and their with their families and their friends and their relationships and things like that. And so I think that sometimes we lose sight of that, and I think that is something that has changed for me dramatically, because I always go back to I still have dinner with some of my kids that I coached from my first and second year, so as they're in their 30s now, and we still this, and every time I see them, like, I'm sorry. I just start with I'm sorry. Like, I know that I was an entirely different coach then. I just feel like I got to start every time with I'm sorry. I've learned. I'm better.
I've changed.
Yes. I do feel like that part of it, like just the intensity that you bring, and while there's a level where it is necessary, right? Competitiveness is just innate in people, and I love to win. Don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? But I also feel like there's really valid lessons and things to take away from losses as well. And that I think that's my responsibility to teach kids how to handle that and be like, hey, guess what? Like, losing's part of the game. Getting scored on is part of the game. Like, it happens. So what are we going to do about it?
That's awesome.
And so I think that's probably my biggest growth. I'm still working on the competitive part, but there's a part of it I don't think I'm ever going to let go.
Dude, I still play old Uno rules. I'll lay 4 draw 4. I don't care what Uno says.
Yeah.
If I put 4 draw 4s, you're drawing 16 cards, 9-year-old, and I don't care if you cry.
Right. Lesson in life, right? Learn to work through it.
You got to learn to hold all those cards. Well, anyway, Wayland, thank you so much for joining me on Soccer Mom Sunday. Shout out to Dave Ehrenberg, who
yes,
said,
absolutely. Thank you so
great
much.
Guest, and thank you for meeting me on a soccer pitch.
Yeah, what a beautiful
It wasn't
day.
actually bad. Next time we do it, I bring... I probably can't do it on this campus, but we'll go somewhere else and have a beverage.
Okay. Next time I want to actually be facing the field so I can watch this.
Yeah, for sure. So make sure I do my due diligence so JB doesn't say, God, I can't let you alone. Please share these episodes. We post them socially. If you subscribe also to whatever, podcast streaming you do, they pop up all the time for me with Soccer Dad's Pod and Soccer Mom Sunday. Follow, like, share, subscribe, all those things. Do that on Soccer Mom Sunday. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll have more forthcoming with or without JB. We'll have more coming. And thanks again, Annie, for being here. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Thank you for being a part of the beautiful game. Everybody have a great rest of your Sunday or whatever day it is you're listening to this on. I'm Jen Siess. We're out on Soccer Mom Sunday. Please give us a follow, review, like, share, and see ya on the next one.